Welcome back, fellas, into this new video to Express. Today, let's check out how to add a pivot or a pivot directly into your tables of Excel. So before we have checked out more elements about how to add a checkbox, adding shapes, adding recommended charts, but first of all, I'm going to be choosing the actual pivot. So first of all, what I'm going to do here is to organize my own information here like this. I'm going to have my own file. So if you work with a large spreadsheet, the pivot table is your best friend because it transforms hundreds of rows of raw data into a clear data range point. So to get started here with this element, the first thing to do is to prepare and insert the pivot table. So make sure your raw data has clean, unique headings into the first row, like the region, like the products. I have all them housing elements. This is my monthly budget, for example. Let's go for entertainment. There's the loans, there's the transport, and there's so much more. So you can make sure that there are no blank rows or columns within the data range. So when I select the data range, for example this one, there's no blank spaces, so I want to be taking that in mind. So click into any single cell within your data table. You don't need to select the whole thing. For example, let's say anywhere around here, right? And go to the insert tab like this. Let's go to insert and click into the pivot table, which is usually appearing in here. Now Excel will automatically select your entire data range. You can choose the element that says to select the data you want to analyze. Select the table or the range. So my table range should be, let's say for example this one. If I select this element, it will be selecting me only those elements right away. So I go for choose where you want the pivot to be appearing. Let's say once again I go all my way down like this. Now where you want the pivot to be replaced, I'm going to be adding this into a new worksheet. This is going to be really important because it's going to be generating a new file validation, right? So once again, I'm going to be trying to do this once again like this. Now this one says that we must use a data that is organized as a list with labeled columns. So if you're changing the name from a pivot field, we must type a new name for the actual field. So for my actual columns, let's say that I can be generating here field 1. And this will be generating a new pivot table, which usually appears directly into my new file here. Labeling, right? So with this information, what I need to do now is to make sure that I do have all the information available and selected the right types. The right elements directly in them. So let's assume, for example, that I do have now my file in here, right? The next thing to do is to focus directly into the actual ribbons. Usually that it has now been appearing in them. As you can see directly into my personal budgeting, what I did is to generate a new field element. And I just generated the new insert section, go for pivot. And this is generating me a new sheet, which usually have all of these elements, right? So the building the pivot table layout is that the fields pan is into the 4 grid areas. The rows are columns that define your table structure. The values is where you dropped the numbers, usually appears directly in here. And I usually hear the columns and the filters a little bit applied like this. So like a summarized of all of the field like this. There we go. You can see that the rows has not been correctly added. The field has not been connected correctly in here. So this is the pivot, like making the summary of all the fields and all the reports and drag them between the areas below, right? So let's find the total sales per region. You can drag the region field down into the rows area. Instantly all unique regions appears into the actual table. You can add the slice, add the filters, hold the rows, and there we go. Now we can drag the sales amount field into the values area. By default, Excel calculates the sum of sales for each the region like this, and I focus into the sales amount, usually say for example the actual values, right? To see the breakdown by the actual product, you can drag the product field into the columns area, and it will be appearing directly in here. And I can move to the rows and check out how this is actually going to be imported into each region. And you can drag a field like the date or the shipper into the filters area to allow the quick filtering reports and put it directly in here. And there we go. Check out how all the blank information will be appearing directly in here. I can disable, let's say for example, only field 1 and 2, or 1 and 3, focus into the field number 2, and make sure that I have checked out to add all the columns, like this. So, to changing calculations and deformating, if you wanted to calculate something else, for example, like the average sale, you can click into the field names in the values areas, like this, and select the value field settings where you can change the calculation from summed to count, and average the max or minimum. Show value as, field number 1, show value as, like this, and go for OK. In my case, I've just cancel it, but you can just do this once again. Go for OK, and there we go. So if we choose count, the table instantly updates to show the numbers of the transaction per region and product instead of the dollar amount. So you have mastered the pivot table, because remember that the 3 steps, which is insert the pivot table or into the sheets, drag the fields into the rows, and use the value field settings to change calculations. What is the first data set you're going to be summarizing with the pivot table? You can let me know in the comments below. So thank you once again for watching the video, guys. Hopefully we can see you guys next time with this information with the pivot, and well, see you guys next time.